Hey guys, it's your girl Brie. I just want to say thank you so much for clicking on this video. This video is going to be for my writers out there who just want to improve their writing and become a more effective writer. So I have a couple of tips for you, so stay tuned to find out what those are. Tip number one is you have to be an effective reader before you can be a writer. So what I'm pretty much trying to say is you have to learn how to read between the lines. So pick up a book, whether, I don't know what you're writing about, but if you're writing about science fiction, pick up a science fiction book. If you're writing about poetry, pick up a poetry book. If you're writing about romance, go ahead and pick up a romance book and really look at what the author is doing in that book. So what are they saying? How do they use their tone? What kind of words are they using for certain scenes? How are they portraying their voice? Does their voice come off soft? Does it come off hard? Does it come off edgy? And why? Why are they doing that in that particular scene? That's really helpful in order to become a writer, because when you're starting to write and you put down these scenes, you kind of have an idea of what you should be laying down in part of the tracks for your writing. So you've got to be a reader in order to write. You have to. That's the only way you're really going to learn. Yeah. Tip number two, go ahead and pick up a thesaurus. So when you're picking up a thesaurus, I don't mean just use any word that comes out. Like, really look through the words, really look at the definitions that the thesaurus is putting out for the word that you are looking at, or the word that you want to exchange it for, okay? And if you don't know what that word means, don't use it, because then the voice of the voice and the tone of your piece is not going to fit. It's just not going to sound right. So don't use it. Like, use something where you're like, oh yeah, I remember that word from like 8th grade. Like, totally go for something like that. Okay. Tip number three, take breaks from your writing. So when you're writing, you really are putting a lot of work and effort into your baby. This is literally your baby. You're putting a lot of work and effort into this, and sometimes you can get burnt out, especially when it comes to those long hours that you're putting in for this piece to sound even halfway decent. Okay, you gotta take those breaks. You gotta take like a day or two off from it, just to kind of refresh your brain and to get your brain back to where it's not super fried. So you got to take breaks from your writing. I know you want to be with it and you want to take care of it and you just want to like continue like nurturing it and loving it, but you got to take a break. Okay. Tip number four, allow yourself to write crappy. If you don't allow yourself to write crappy, how are you ever going to improve? I learned this the hard way, and to be honest, it's probably the best advice that I've ever gotten. You have to learn how to allow yourself and to forgive yourself to write such horrible pieces, because then, okay, I'll say that for tip number five, and when it comes to letting yourself writing these horrible pieces, you get to see, okay, where did I go wrong? Even going back to tip number one, where you read to become a writer, there's so much to learn in that, to learn about yourself and to learn about how you can grow. Tip number five, do not be afraid of criticism. You cannot allow yourself to be afraid of criticism. And I'm saying that because I have a friend that I go to every couple of weeks, or we meet up every couple of weeks, and we talk about our writing, and we give our pieces to each other. And whether it's a rough, and I'm talking about like rough as stone draft, or we think it's so polished that it's perfect, it doesn't really matter. Like, we give it to each other and we have the other person read it and we get their critique. And a lot of times, like, not even a lot of times, it's every time we're doing this, we're critiquing at it because we want the other person to succeed. We don't want you to fail. We don't want this piece to be an utter disaster. Like, we really do want the other person to have a good perspective and a good grip on what they're trying to say, or a good grip on how the audience would perceive it. So please don't be afraid of critiques. Share your stuff out there with people that you trust. Don't just give it to any stranger, but share it with people you can trust. They're not going to want you to fail. And that's it. Those are my 5 tips. Thanks for watching. Bye, guys. I like that. All right. That wasn't bad. Tip number 1 is you have to be a reader in order to be an effective writer. And for my homegirls out there, homeboys, sure, homegirls, okay, nope, okay. Tip number 1, this is the sort of, okay. Pick up a dictionary. Nope.